Welcome to Back in Crime.
This holiday season, we're not unwrapping gifts, we're unwrapping crimes.
From the shadows of history to the cold files of the FBI, we're pulling back the ribbon on mysteries that haunted Christmas past.
I'm Todd Hiles, retired U.S. Secret Service agent.
And I'm Stewart Fillmore, retired FBI agent. Together, we're the Texas Crime Travelers.
In this special series, we'll take you under the crime scene tape of cases that shocked communities and baffled investigators during Christmas.
Stories of greed, betrayal, and desperation, wrapped in tinsel, but dripping with suspense.
So pour yourself some eggnog, lock the doors, and join us.
This is Crimemas, Volume 1.
So here we go with another episode during Crimemas.
I love Crimemas. It's our little play on crime and Christmas. I love it.
Exactly. A quick reminder to our listeners, these are the episodes of our podcast, Back in Crime, where festive cheer meets criminal fear. In the last Crimemas episode about the Unabomber, we talked about that age-old debate, is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
I think it is. And apparently a lot of our listeners do as well.
Yeah, the consensus, it is a Christmas movie. But today, we're going to unwrap a Christmas story that's got everything. It's got a masked hero, a suitcase full of silver, guns, and a thief.
Oh, wow. Man.
And it happens on Christmas Eve, and it almost erased a legend. And you know what? I think the FBI was involved in this case.
Okay.
But I know for sure the Texas Rangers were involved with it.
Man. Okay, I can't wait.
Well,
FBI, Texas Rangers, Christmas Eve.
And just another quick commercial here. If you're looking for a great Christmas gift, check out our hats and sweatshirts on our merchandise on TexasCrimeTravelers.com.
Yeah, we've got some pretty cool stuff. Folks need to really start checking that stuff out.
So today's story, the main character in today's episode is Jack Moore. He was born on September 14th, 1914 in Chicago, Illinois. In 1934, at the World's Fair in Chicago, Jack Moore was a young trapeze artist swinging above the crowd. He was agile, fearless, and already chasing the spotlight. But fate will have other plans.
Okay. So just a quick little side trip here. So you said the World's Fair in Chicago in 1934. So John Dillinger, the famous bank robber that I've done actually a lot of work on, was at that same World's Fair. In fact, had a police officer take
the famous photograph.
A photograph of Dillinger and his girlfriend at the time. And it was a little inside joke for Dillinger. He just thought it was the funniest thing.
And just as another side note to our listeners, we always here on Back in Crime, we always try to get John Dillinger into at least more than just one episode.
Dillinger's one of my, areas of expertise, if you will.
Yes.
When I hear Chicago World's Fair 1934, that's where my mind went. Sorry.
That famous photograph. That's all right. So, again, back to Jack Moore. After the World's Fair in Chicago, he's going to become an actor in B-Western movies. He's also pretty much a Hollywood stuntman. And eventually he'll change his first name to Clayton.
Clayton Moore. So for folks of my generation, that name probably will sound familiar if you don't immediately know who that is. Probably our younger listeners they're wondering, who is this?
Right. And again, Clayton Moore now, he has a commanding voice.
Yeah.
He's got this physical presence.
Yeah, he's a good-looking dude, too.
And he can perform action scenes, and he can deliver iconic lines with conviction.
Yeah.
During World War II, Moore enlisted in the U.S. Army Air Forces, where he serves with the branch's first motion picture unit making training films.
Yeah.
And in 1949, he is the ideal lead for a role in a new TV series titled...
You want me to say it?
You say it.
The Lone Ranger.
Exactly. The Lone Ranger will actually run for 5 seasons on television, but in season 3...
What year was it again, Todd?
1949.
Okay.
Runs for 5 seasons.
TV was brand new then.
And it runs for 5 seasons, but in season 3, he's replaced by another actor.
Wow, I never knew that.
Exactly. And then in season 4 and 5, they bring Clayton Moore back
Okay.
as the Lone Ranger.
Who replaced him? Who was that? That's a good trivia.
Yeah, we'd have to look that up.
Okay. All right. Hey, let's put that to our listeners. Let's let them
Let us know
solve
if
that
they
one.
know who in season 3 played
Put
the
that
Lone Ranger.
Put that in the comments, guys.
In all, Moore will star in 169 episodes of the show.
Yeah.
But now this is where the story turns from kind of Hollywood actor to American legend. Because when the filming stopped, Moore really never took the mask of the Lone Ranger off.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let me go back for just a second, because again, I think some of our younger listeners, even when you say the Lone Ranger, they may not even know who that is. I mean, so for a kid like me that grew up in the late '60s, early '70s, we had there were reruns of these old 1950s TV shows, and so the Lone Ranger was like he was in the Old West, and he had a sidekick, an American Indian named Tonto. And the Lone Ranger wore a mask, and he had the white horse his horse was named Silver. It was a white horse, and he always at some point in the show he'd get in trouble. Somebody would get in trouble, and it looks like there's no way out of this, and somehow the Lone Ranger would always save the day, usually by shooting the gun out of the bad guy's hand. He never killed the bad guy. He just always shot the gun out of his hand, and boom, that saved the day.
Right.
And that's how it ended. When I was a kid, and I think at the start of the show, you'd see the Lone Ranger ride up on Silver, and he'd get the horse to bring his front feet up and kind of stand up. It was real dramatic looking, pretty cool stuff. And just for a young guy, I was mesmerized by that. I thought it was so cool, and people now would probably think it's cheesy,
Right.
But that's the background of it. And then it's one of those things where, certain actors get associated with a role that they just, they're not going to break out of it. Like the guy that played Herman Munster, I think he actually considered himself like a classically trained actor. Fred Gwynn was his name. And, I think he wanted to be taken seriously as an actor, but for the rest of his life, other than a brief role in, I think, My Cousin Vinny, where he played the judge.
Right.
People just considered him Herman Munster, you know. So I think kind of the same thing happened here with Clayton Moore.
But probably more for Clayton Moore, because even when he's off camera, he still plays that role of the Lone Ranger.
Yeah. Well, because I think it's like you're talking like appearances and those kind of things.
Yeah, he visits schools.
Sure. Well, it's a job.
Hospital. Yeah. He visits hospitals, schools. He does all these public appearances, and he's always preaching like safety and justice and kindness.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and those are great values we could use more of today. I definitely, he was the good guy. The traditional good guys versus bad guys. He was the good guy without a doubt. And so, yeah, I think that's a great thing that he played up those values.
And he refused to do commercials that endorsed alcohol or tobacco.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In Hollywood, after the Lone Ranger series ended, he was offered many acting roles. But a lot of them, he had to play the villain.
Yeah.
And he refused to play that.
Yeah.
He only wanted to remain a hero. He never wanted to be a bad guy.
Yeah, right.
And to kids, he's always the Lone Ranger.
Sure. Yeah. So, yeah, again, I told you, when you said that name, Clayton Moore, I mean, I knew who that was, and guys of my generation that watched those old reruns, you associate him with being a hero, a good guy.
So here goes our story for Crimemas. It's Christmas Eve, 1986.
Okay.
And Clayton Moore has just landed at the Houston Intercontinental Airport.
Yeah, so he's going to be in his 70s at this point. Yeah, because he was born in 1914, right?
Right. And the plane lands. When Moore reaches baggage claim, there's something wrong.
Is he coming in for a promotional appearance?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so when he gets to the carousel there with suitcases, his suitcase is not on the carousel.
Okay.
Has this ever happened to you, Stewart?
It actually has. I've had, when my luggage just didn't make it to where my destination was, and I've never lost it completely, but
it's been misplaced.
It's been misplaced, and I had to wait a day or two to get it. Which is why I now do everything in my power to never check luggage. You can't believe how much I can stuff into an overhead bag.
Well, as a retired Secret Service agent, I have traveled the world.
Sure, yeah.
And lots and lots of flights. But it has only happened to me one time. I flew from the United States to Zurich.
Okay.
And it was a direct flight.
Yeah.
And there were other agents on that flight. And when we got to Zurich, mine was the only suitcase that was not on the carousel.
Oh, man.
And so I ended up being in Zurich for one night without a suitcase.
Yeah.
And the next day, we were traveling on to Istanbul.
Okay.
And I kind of let the airlines know that I hadn't,
Yeah.
my bag didn't arrive from the United States. I think we even let the embassy there know.
Yeah, sure.
That we were leaving Switzerland and moving on to Turkey. And however it happened, when we finally made it to Istanbul, I checked in my hotel room and my suitcase was in the room.
And there it was. Okay.
and again, nothing missing. It all worked out.
Yeah.
I just didn't have it.
It's amazing to me that baggage makes it at all, as successfully as it does.
It's crazy. But back to the Lone Ranger story. Again, Moore is standing at the luggage carousel and his suitcase is not there.
Okay.
And again, this is just not any suitcase, because this suitcase is really holding more than just his clothes.
Okay.
It's holding American history.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because inside this suitcase were 2 pearl-handled Colt Action Army revolvers.
Oh, the ones he used in the show?
Exactly.
Okay.
A custom gun belt.
Yeah.
And 2 Lone Ranger costumes and 36 silver bullets.
Oh, man. Okay.
And these aren't TV props. These were, Moore's personal gear.
Sure. Yeah.
It's his symbol of legacy that stretches back to 1949. And again, you hit on this. He's the masked man. He's this masked hero who's never killed anybody.
Right.
And he only fires his pistols to disarm people.
Right. No matter how bad the bad guy was, and no matter how much he deserved getting shot, the Lone Ranger just always shot the gun out of his hand.
Right. And then he'd
And,
leave.
and I tell you, that's something that I know a lot of people, that's in their mindset now. When you talk about, you'll hear stories in the news of police shootings, and it'll be a situation where the person that the police had to shoot, was shot 10 times or something. And people think, well, that's just overkill, or why didn't they just shoot to wound him, or just shoot the gun out of his hand? That works on TV, but in real life, in a life or death situation, there's no marksman on this planet that is good enough and calm enough under pressure to think I can just shoot the gun out of their hand. I think I've seen it happen one time in a situation where a sniper actually shot the gun out of somebody's hand that was threatening to kill themselves, in a prolonged kind of hostage situation. But in a gunfight, it's not realistic in any stretch of the imagination to think, oh, well, you should have shot the gun out of his hand. But still, I think that I've heard that many times over the years, when people complaining about the police or whatever, oh, they should have just shot the gun out of his hand. Nah, that's just not realistic. But that is a legacy from this show.
Yeah, and I think I love old black and white movies, and there's one, I think it's an FBI agent who goes out west on vacation for like hiking and fishing.
Yeah.
And while he's on vacation, whatever state he's in out west, they have a fugitive escape from a prison, and now he's somewhere nearby.
Yeah,
the FBI.
That's Sidney Poitier, I think, was in that, right?
I don't think so. It's somewhere. I think like the FBI sends a telegram and says, "Hey, your vacation is over.
Yeah,
because now we need you to help the local authorities find the fugitive."
Okay.
And so there's this big track. They're tracking the fugitive through the mountains, and there was a scene at the very end where it's the FBI agent takes the rifle from law enforcement, a sheriff's deputy, and he fires this long distance, and he shoots the gun out of the bad guy's hands.
Okay.
So I guess that was probably
Yeah.
the way to make FBI look awesome. That
Yeah. Right.
they had this conclusion to this
Sure.
fugitive,
Yeah.
but
And yeah. So
it disarmed him by shooting him.
right.
And I think there was something also, getting back to the Lone Ranger, where didn't at the end he always left like a silver bullet.
Yes.
So I think that's what these 36
That was his trademark. That was his symbol. Yeah.
Yeah, that he left those bullets behind.
Mm-hmm.
Again,
So he's got all this stuff, all this memorabilia
inside
that,
his suitcase.
no doubt could on the black market could be, worth a lot of money.
Yeah. In fact, his gun belt is handcrafted by a person by the name of Edward Bolin, and this guy was like a legendary Hollywood saddle maker.
Okay.
He worked, in television, other movie stars like Roy Rogers and Gene Autry. He made their saddles. He made their
Okay. So that makes
their holsters. Yeah.
That's also makes it more valuable.
And so now these guns that he had in his suitcase, they had pearl grips. They were custom engraved. And again, it comes with a history. It's the Lone Ranger's guns. And I'm sure there's every gun collector in the world would love to own this, or at least just see it in person, and to touch them.
Yeah. Just since we're kind of talking to movies and stuff like that, and you're talking that he had that they were pearl handle revolvers. In the movie Patton, there's a scene where the reporters, because Patton carried an old style 6-gun revolver like that. And the reporter asked him about his pearl handled revolver, and Patton said they were ivory handled. Only a pimp in a cheap New Orleans whorehouse would have pearl handled pistols.
The Lone Ranger's costumes were tailored to Moore's frame, right?
Yeah.
And he had his the white cowboy hat you talked about.
Mm-hmm.
He wore a blue shirt. He had that red handkerchief tied.
Yeah. So I guess for me, I'm so old that I never saw anything colorized. It was all in black and white. So
right. And again, he wore that iconic black mask then.
Yes. Yeah, and there's a story as to why he wore the mask, and I forget what it was now. But it's effectively, that he was just doing good to do good, and he didn't want the credit for it. So, but there is a backstory to why he wears the mask.
Again, to our listeners, if you know the backstory on that,
there's another one.
Know.
Yeah, please comment. I'm sure somebody does.
So here's Moore at the airport. Suitcase gone. He's devastated, right? Mm-hmm. He immediately offers a $5,000 reward for anybody who will bring him his suitcase back.
Yeah.
And I think this is sort of where the FBI get involved a little bit with it at this time, because this theft back then made national headlines.
Okay.
And there's a lot of fans that are outraged.
My initial thought would be on did he leave out of L.A., I guess, or in California?
Yeah, I think that's where he was.
So that's where I would look first, is because when the baggage handlers along the way, they're not going to necessarily it's not going to mean anything to them. And somebody where he checks the baggage in, they know to see the name, and maybe they make the connection. Hey, you got to check out and see what this guy's got in his baggage.
Right. And again, like I said to Moore, he's devastated.
Oh man,
by this being gone, because he spent decades being the Lone Ranger.
Yeah, building this image.
Like you said, he's 72 years old now at this time.
Yeah,
and this is his whole image.
Sure.
But let's just take a second.
And it can be replaced. Everything there can be replaced.
Right.
But yeah, it's very unique stuff.
Right. So let's just take a second here and kind of pause and rewind, because this is not his first time that he's had to battle the Lone Ranger's image. Because in 1979, the owners of the Lone Ranger trademark, they sued Moore to stop him from appearing in costume at public events. They feared that they were coming out with a new movie about the Lone Ranger.
Yeah, I know there have been a couple of movies, and I think one was maybe kind of like he's like an anti-hero. He's not, it's a different character than what was on the old TV show.
And while this was going on in 79, he's actually banned from wearing that iconic mask. But instead, he wears sunglasses, and he just keeps fighting against this trademark. A lot of fans wrote letters. There were these petitions that poured into the court. And finally, in 1985, a court lifted the ban.
Yeah.
And
so relatively not long before this Christmas Eve thing in Houston, he had started back on being able to do the promotional tours.
And again, he resumed wearing the mask, and at the time he was quoted as saying, "I am the Lone Ranger, and I always will be."
Yeah. I mean, everybody would agree with that.
And just like you pointed out, now it's been just over a year since he's reclaimed that mask back. Again, somebody tries to steal his identity, and they rob him of his guns.
Yeah.
And again, this is very personal to him. He feels like people are trying to wipe away his legacy. The real unfortunate thing about the timing of losing the suitcase on Christmas Eve is that on January 1st, 1987, he's supposed to appear at the Tournament of Roses Parade in Pasadena, California.
And no doubt in his costume.
Right.
Yeah.
When I told you that company that built his holster, they're notified right away, and they rush, and by December 29th, they've already made him another holster.
Another holster, okay.
And so they got that out to him for the Rose Bowl parade.
Okay.
They got it out there for him. Now, there's a gun collector in Houston, Texas, and he sees the news reports about the stolen guns, and he realizes what he has just purchased.
So, okay, got it. Yeah.
And he does the right thing, and he contacts the police. The gun collector had bought the pistols, just recently bought them. And who do you think the seller of the guns were?
Somebody that worked at the Houston airport.
Stewart, you are correct. He was a baggage handler at the airport, and he stole the suitcase off the carousel.
Yeah.
And then he ended up selling the guns for $400 to the gun collector.
Okay. Was it a random thing, or did he knew what he was doing?
That I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know, but the baggage handler is arrested, and he's charged with a felony theft.
Right. So I wonder if there was, if the baggage went through some kind of X-ray at that time.
That he would have saw that there were guns.
Yeah,
in
and he
there.
just saw the guns in there. Not necessarily that they were, this famous.
If I remember correctly, and you probably knew this too. Like back then, if you traveled with firearms, they put a special sticker.
Ah, that's
on
right.
The suitcases.
That's right. Yeah. I didn't even think of that because
So
I've never traveled with firearms unofficially.
Right.
You
could carry them on
board. We were
board.
required to on duty. And there's a certain process that I'm not going to mention about how we do that, but. I've never done it as a civilian, so I didn't even think of that. But you're right.
But I think back then, if you were on a hunting trip and you were flying commercially, I think they put a special sticker.
That's right.
On your suitcase. So I'm sure the baggage handler
probably
saw that
rather
said,
than this is the Lone Ranger.
No,
because he might not even have known who it was.
Right. And so this baggage handler, his trial will take place in Harris County in a criminal court there in Harris County. Now, the funny thing about this is that Moore himself will attend that trial. And when he comes in, he's going to attend it in the Lone Ranger attire. He's got the hat, the boots, and the mask, right?
That's a little over the top, I think. But,
yeah.
Okay.
And so the defense...
Did he testify, I guess, as the victim, right?
Yeah, he showed up. I don't know if he testified, but he showed up, and the defense objected.
Sure, I can absolutely understand. Yes,
and says, "Hey, he can't wear a mask in here," and so it's reported that the judge said he was never unmasked in the show, and I won't let a thief do it here in my courtroom.
Okay,
so the baggage handler.
That's a great story.
Yeah, the baggage handler pleads guilty, and he's sentenced to 1 month in jail. and 600 hours of community service.
I'm surprised they had a trial for that, but
I don't know if it was so much a
maybe,
trial.
probably just some kind of a hearing.
Yeah, some
sure.
kind of a hearing.
Yeah.
But again, he got 600 hours of community service. Do you want to take a guess what his community service was?
Cleaning out stables.
Stewart, you are correct.
That was a wild guess.
At the Houston Police Stables.
Okay.
He has to go there and shovel out the horse manure.
Okay.
And at that time...
did they have a horse there named Silver?
That I don't know. But apparently, Moore got his guns back, and he's quoted in the newspaper saying, Kemosabe, these Texas Rangers are good men.
Okay, yeah.
Because I think the Texas Rangers were sort of involved now, too,
Yeah.
in getting these
Makes
guns
sense.
back.
Yeah.
The sad thing, not everything was recovered, just the guns were. The costumes and the silver bullets, they vanished.
Yeah.
Somewhere out there, there's a piece of pop culture history.
Somebody out there has it. They may be listening to this now, so put that in the comments if you if you happen to have that.
Right.
I think the statute of limitations is run.
Right. And again, Moore was able to ride in the Rose Parade as planned. Mm-hmm. He got the extra holster. There were more costumes that he wore. But he was always quoted as saying, it's not just property, it's a part of America's memory.
It is. Yeah, absolutely.
In 1996, Moore had an autobiography book published, and the title was I Was That Masked Man.
Yeah.
Moore passed away on December 28th, 1999, at the age of 85 in California after he suffered a heart attack.
Yeah.
A few years later, in June of 2013, they had an auction of a lot of his personal Lone Ranger items. Over the years, there were several variations of his mask that he wore. One of them is actually in the Smithsonian National Museum of American History.
Yeah.
It's that important,
right,
to our culture.
Yeah.
It
is. It really is.
And there's also another variation of his mask and his attire that are displayed sort of near us. You want to take a guess?
Kidding.
You want to take a guess where that's at?
So I may be 3 for 3 on the trivia questions today, but I'm gonna go out and say the Texas Ranger Hall of Fame Museum in Waco.
Stewart, you are correct. You are correct. And a little bit about that museum, because
that's a really cool museum, by the way.
Yeah, if you're ever in Waco, Texas, please check that out.
Yeah,
that's the official historical center of the Texas Rangers.
They've got some Bonnie and Clyde artifacts there as well.
Yeah, and it has a lot of their weapons and uniforms that they wore over the years. And that museum actually opened in 1968.
Yeah. So again, just for our younger listeners that may not know the distinction, we have the Texas Rangers baseball team, but there's actually a law enforcement arm of the Department of Public Safety in Texas, the Texas Rangers. That I think the Texas Rangers, the law enforcement Rangers are, I think they're as old as the state of Texas, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know exactly when they were formed, and some of the Rangers that I know would probably be cross with me for not knowing that. But I know they've been around a long, long time. I think even going back to before Texas was a state. I want to say when Texas was a republic,
they had the
for
Rangers
9 or 10 years. I think that's when the Rangers were formed. So they've been around a long time, and so that museum has some cool stuff.
And a lot of people think that the Lone Rangers stuff that is on display in there, it just more to highlight how the Texas Rangers influenced American pop culture and TV and films, because some people actually believe that the Lone Ranger was sort of created after a Texas Ranger.
Yeah, right. Kind of based on that model.
Right.
Yeah, right.
I saw online that just even a few years ago, there was an estate sale of one of the producers of the TV series. And a mask at that time sold for $27,000.
Holy moly. Wow.
And at that same estate, there were 2 revolvers that were used during the filming of the TV series, and they sold for nearly $30,000.
Okay. Yeah. Wow.
At the end, this case. There's just too much to ignore in that. A masked man is robbed of his guns, a hero's forced to testify in court, and a thief is sentenced to shovel manure. It's almost
That's a great story.
It's almost like a B Western script come to life.
Sure. And I think too. Something that's kind of a little inside baseball for our listeners is, Todd and I come up with ideas and content for the show, and we kind of trade off. It usually ends up kind of Todd will come up with a story, and then I just kind of comment along with it. And most of them I don't know what we're going to talk about, or if I bring one in, Todd doesn't know. We do that to just kind of it's kind of an interesting thing, and and one of us at least is kind of following along like the listener is. And so this was Todd's, and I maybe had a little bit of a hint about what it was going to be, but I did not know the details of this. This is a great story. It's a really cool story. That's well done, Todd.
Well, and I always think the cool thing about this story, it's about Clayton Moore, in that he never stopped believing in the power of justice.
Yeah,
I mean, he took that TV role and then took it into his life.
Yeah, right.
And I guess for it to be an episode during our Crimemas, it tells of a crime that, legends aren't bulletproof, that they can actually be robbed too.
Oh yeah, sure.
But at the end of the day, the Lone Ranger always rides on. Now,
Sure.
Before we end this episode, I just want to tell one more cool story about the Lone Ranger.
Okay.
So it's December 1998, and a guest on the David Letterman show that night is Jay Thomas.
Okay.
Now, Jay Thomas, he was an actor.
Yeah, sure.
And after he tells this story about the Lone Ranger, David Letterman invites him back, December after December for the next several years, because David Letterman, this is one of his favorite stories.
Okay.
About the Lone Ranger.
Wow, I don't know this one.
Christmas
So
okay.
again, this is another one. I'm learning this.
All right, here we go.
Okay.
It's 1972, and Thomas is a young disc jockey at an AM radio station in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay.
And so he's out working this promotional, kind of a promotional gig at a local Dodge dealership. And this Dodge dealership has also booked a special guest, Clayton Moore.
Clayton Moore, okay.
The Lone Ranger. The Lone Ranger himself.
Yeah.
He's there in full costume, the mask, the hat, and all.
Okay.
He's there. After the broadcast ends and the crowd leaves, Thomas is packing up his equipment, and he notices that Moore is still there.
Yeah.
So there was a car that was supposed to drive Moore back to his hotel, and it never shows up. So Thomas, he's just a young kid.
Yeah.
He offers Moore a ride home, or a ride to the hotel.
Sure.
In Moore's own car.
Yeah.
And of course, the Lone Ranger accepts. And so now they're stuck in traffic. and Moore is sitting quiet, the Lone Ranger is sitting quietly in the back seat.
Oh, he didn't ride in the front seat.
No, he sat in the back seat, and they're stuck in traffic, and all of a sudden, right in front of Thomas's car, there's this older man. He's in a Buick, and he backs up in traffic, and he runs in the front end of Thomas's car. And it actually breaks a headlight to Thomas's car.
Yeah.
But then the driver of the Buick, he just drives away.
Yeah.
It's a classic hit and run.
Wow.
But now, I can imagine Thomas, he's got to be angry.
Sure.
And he chases after the Buick. There's a little bit of a car chase.
Okay.
They're weaving through traffic, and I can only assume that Thomas has forgot that the Lone Ranger's in his back seat.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, Thomas catches up to the Buick. He blocks the Buick in, and Thomas jumps out of his car, and he confronts the man about hitting his car.
Mm-hmm.
And this man denies that he backed into Thomas's car.
Oh boy.
And Thomas threatens to call
Got a famous witness there.
Well, yeah, but then Thomas threatens to call the police.
Yeah.
And the man says, go right ahead. Who do you think they're going to believe, me or you?
Yeah.
And at that moment, the Lone Ranger, still in costume, steps out of Thomas's back seat, approaches the man and says, they'll believe me.
That's great.
Well, as we wrap up this Crimemas episode, remember, you don't tug on Superman's cape, you don't spit in the wind, and you don't ever steal the Lone Ranger's guns.
Exactly.
Join us next time when we unwrap another holiday heist.
Yeah, this is great. Give us your questions, your comments. We love hearing the feedback.
But until then, keep your suitcase locked tight. And if you like this story, hit that subscribe button, leave us a review, share with your fellow crime lovers. And Stewart, this is the part when you end with the famous last words of the Lone Ranger.
Oh boy, you're putting the pressure on me. Let's see, the famous last words of the
every episode.
We always close the show with "Hiles Silver, away!" This has been the Back in Crime podcast presented by Texas crime travelers Todd Hiles and Stewart Fillmore. We are the executive producers. Grace Hiles is the producer and director. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and our YouTube channel at Texas Crime Travelers.